Yeah.
All right. Switching gears.
Yep. The Olympics.
The Olympics.
They're ending Sunday, right?
I believe so.
Closing ceremony.
Yeah.
Their opening ceremony was a little controversial, I guess, across the internet, but I loved it. It was very artistic, and the torch where it ended and lit up, it was this hot air balloon that was amazing. I was like, how are they keeping it there? What? I haven't gone back to look, but
right.
I loved that. You've been watching it a lot. I typically only watch women's gymnastics.
Mm-hmm.
I did watch some men's gymnastics just because they were kind of wrapped around each other.
Yep.
They were going back and forth.
Right.
And then whatever happens to be on when I come in, and you're watching everything.
I'm watching everything.
I did want to check out the break dancing.
That just happened today. So
yeah, I got to go back and watch some. That's new this year, the break dancing. So I think that's going to be cool.
I did see one person that competed, and I don't know if it's a meme or if it actually happened, but this person was so bad that it's all over TikTok right now.
Breakdancing?
Yes. It was so bad that they were doing squeaky shoe sounds to it. it was hilarious.
Too bad I didn't find that clip.
Oh my God, that would have been hilarious. But yeah, they're doing breakdancing today. I did see one person who won. I don't know how many categories there are, but I did see a woman who won, and saw a little bit of their routine, and it was, I don't know if it's a sporting event worthy of a gold medal, but okay, so be it.
It's competition.
Same with skateboarding. Another one, I just didn't feel like it was artistic enough. The tricks that they were doing was, a quarter, a fifth, a percentile of the difficulty that some of these guys do on these big half pikes and stuff like this.
Oh, they weren't doing that in the Olympics?
No, they were doing little street things, like I'm going to
maybe it was
ride down the rail and jump over a little bump. And
yeah, it was probably street skating
do an
or something.
ollie or something, not that I'm proficient in skateboarding, but so those two were like, I really didn't care about.
But what are some of the highlights or the moments that you're going to remember from this Olympics?
Noah Lyles winning the 100 meters by a fraction of an inch, which was unexpected. And then the race that he was supposed to win, the 200, he gets COVID after he wins the 100.
Oh, I didn't know this.
That's what I'm here for. You said we're going to talk about the Olympics. I watched the Olympics.
You do.
You didn't watch the Olympics.
Not all of it.
I'm going to give you some Olympic knowledge.
Yep.
So the guy who won the 100, the easier race for him was to win the 200, which an American hasn't done since probably Carl Lewis, back in 1984, which we'll get into in a little bit.
Yep.
But so he was destined to win because he just eked out the 100 win. The next morning he gets COVID. He's supposed to do that race in 2 days. He literally crosses the finish line third, not first, and collapses, and they take him off on a wheelchair.
I can't believe they let him compete.
Yeah, they do not have COVID protocols like they did back in Tokyo.
Even if you're positive.
They don't have the same, protocols they had back then. So yes, he competed and people knew he had COVID. And one of the side effects of COVID is your lungs.
Chest, yeah.
And dude couldn't even breathe. I think at one point I saw him do this, which is, my father and brother are asthmatic, and
the
that
inhaler
would always be the sign for give me my inhaler because I can't breathe, and I thought I saw him doing this after the race. They ended up giving him a bottle of water, but he just laid there. They took him off on a wheelchair, and he admitted later, he's like, yeah, I woke up and I knew that something bad was happening.
Wow.
So he didn't get that double. I think, I got caught up in the whole gymnastics thing. I liked it. The women were excellent. There was a couple women from Brazil that I liked.
Yeah, we were rooting for other teams for like that third place because they during like the individuals and stuff. So after the team competition, the US couldn't win every event, everything. So yeah, Brazil was really good. The one girl from Italy, she was
Yeah.
in the competition for a while.
You know, and I really followed the story of the girl from, I can't remember the name, but she was a French citizen. They had a beef. She ended up representing another country. The French women's team didn't make the team finals.
Yeah, they didn't even make the team
because
final.
she wasn't on the team, and they had beef with her and the whole thing. So she goes to represent another country, and she ends up winning, I believe, the uneven bars.
Yeah.
She breaks down crying, and it's a good moment for her
because they weren't going to let her. I thought they weren't going to let her on the team or something, or she was just having issues with the country of France.
They weren't going to let her on the team. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So, so it was just a bunch of stuff, going on. There's a big backstory to that whole thing, but I think the events that the swimming was okay. I wasn't as invested as I was during the Michael Phelps era. Katie Ledecky was kind of neat. There was some cute Katie Ledecky moments with this little girl that I loved. And so swimming was kind of swimming. The USA and Australia were supposed to have this big rivalry and stuff. And I don't think it ever really materialized. But there was supposed to be some big thing there. But my biggest thing in the Summer Olympics are the track and field. I love the track events. Really like the relays. I really like some of the distance running events, even though we don't typically do well in those. But we did win the mile this year, which was a crazy comeback. I couldn't believe that race. I was like glued to the TV. I even rewound it and watched it again because it was so cool. And the last thing I'll mention about the Olympics, we just were watching before we came
today. I was just thinking, don't forget that.
Yeah. So we were watching Canada and Brazil play for the gold medal of beach volleyball. And
so it's 2-on-2.
2-on-2, right? So I'm watching it. You're in the other room. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's starting to get a little chippy. They're starting to talk back and forth, and they win a point, and a girl would come up to the net and start screaming, and then the girl would protest, be like, hey, I don't want her screaming in my face, and then so it keeps going back and forth, to the point where all four women are at the net and
they are going at each other. They're going at each other
verbally.
Oh yeah,
verbally. And so an official comes out there. They're trying to break them up. The girls are trying to make up, but then they start fighting again, and it's going back. And in the background, I hear
after they split them up. And
why they're together. They're like, everything's going on, but they're trying to get them apart. The DJ, they'll play like songs between points, to keep the crowd, rowdy. Starts playing "Imagine" by John Legend, John Lennon. And I'm like, oh my God, this is hilarious. They're trying to like calm it down, imagine all the people. And as the women are like breaking up and kind of going, because the one team got a yellow card. They got warned for their behavior. Yep. And as they're breaking the girls up, 3 of the 4 hear the music and start laughing that this DJ had the perfect timing to put this song on.
They were just like had a smirk on their face, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're doing that for us. But then what did the crowd do?
The best part was I look at the background and the crowd is like this, and they're just swaying back, and they're singing. They're singing the song. It was like a true Olympic moment, a funny moment. That's one of the things, like the Olympics are such unique sporting events outside of like the basketball and soccer, but there's such unique sporting events that we only see once every 4 years. I enjoy the Olympics. I have a connection to the Olympics, and I think that is, a bucket list item for me. And I know in 4 years, the Olympics will be back in Los Angeles.
Yeah, we're thinking we don't want to miss that opportunity.
I think that is something I would really like to go see and go take in some of these events. And even if it's equestrian or, or, I don't know, mountain biking or something, I would really like to, be a part of that experience. And I say that because behind me is the
if you're wondering, what is that thing that's been sitting behind us the whole time? Go ahead.
Do you want to?
No, okay. That's yours.
So behind me is the Olympic torch. from 1984 Los Angeles games. And I was
Full
one
circle.
of the torchbearers. So when the flame came to the United States, I believe it started somewhere near New York. I can't remember exactly where it started. I have to go look that up. But it weaved its way throughout the continental United States and ended up in Los Angeles. So for probably 2 months prior to the Olympics, the flame, the eternal flame that comes from Athens, Greece, I believe, came to the United States, and we were in charge of taking that flame all the way until they actually light the torch starting the Olympiad for that year.
So how long is your leg of that?
1 kilometer.
Less than a mile.
Less than a mile.
Less than a mile.
Yep,
Okay.
less than a mile.
And you had a special circumstance when you had to run that torch.
Yes, I had an injury
Yeah.
when I ran the torch. So
I can't imagine.
yeah, so I was playing baseball and I twisted my ankle like a couple days before I was supposed to run the torch. And this was a big thing. I was the only torch bearer from our little town here in northeastern Ohio. I was the only one. I actually had to travel 60 miles away because they weren't running it through my little town. We had to go to Cleveland for me to run. So I was the only representative.
That's amazing.
From our town. And 2 days before, so it was like a big thing. It was in the newspaper like for months, leading up to it.
Yeah.
And then a week before it was every day, 5 days before the flame reaches Carlos Aponte, and, they would track it. And it was the whole thing. And when my ankle was like this big. I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I'm going to make it. And people saw that I was on crutches.
Yeah, he was on crutches.
Yeah. People from like the big paper here is like the Plain Dealer, and there was a local paper and some other papers. All these news people came up to me. They thought I was a handicapped individual and wanted to hear my story because I was the only runner on crutch. Like, oh my God, look at that poor handicapped person trying to run this torch. Let's find out their story. Well, it was just a sports injury that happened 2 days before, but they already committed, because you would have to go through people to get to me. I had handlers, like I was under.
Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, I was on lockdown. It was like crazy back in 84. I don't know how they've done it recently, but in 84, I had 2 volunteers that followed me everywhere. I couldn't do anything. People would come up for autographs and they would just peer over and see what they were doing and, what was going on. They would watch, people around. And then when the torch was coming and I could see the runner and the cars, because there's a flame on the car as well. If our torches ever go out, there's a flame on the car.
I didn't know that.
There's all kind of great stuff about the torch. So
yeah.
So as it was coming, and I could see it, all the police, Secret Service, I don't know who it was, were coming up and moving people out of my way because they don't want because people were trying to douse the flame.
Oh,
they were people who, were trying to put out the flame like terrorists. It was crazy.
Yeah.
I think they try to do that every year, that there's some, I don't know, something with the Olympics. I don't know. But so everybody got cleared out. My family included got like cleared out. And when the torch comes, the runner, I have to turn on my torch and, like we could show some other time, but there's a way to kind of ignite it, turn it on, because there's a little bit of butane in there that'll keep it going. But we have to light side by side. And that's the most vulnerable moment of the flame, because
if they both go out.
If they both go out, we have to stop. The car they have to take that eternal flame from the car, and then they have to reignite something else. And so, there were just people surrounding me. I was like, oh my God, and then I get a escort while I'm running.
I saw that in the picture.
Yeah.
So in our intro video, you can see him running with the torch and the person next to you.
Yes. And that's the person that they don't carry a torch, but they run next to us, and they are Secret Service or what, or the fire police.
That's crazy.
Yeah. There's a big story around it. It's not just people grabbing the torch and running. So, but we did ignite our flames pretty quickly, everything. And the 2 volunteers that were there, the people who were watching me, made sure everything was good to go. They must have been trained for hours because turn it like this and you hold it like this and you do it like this. And so we did all that, and I was off.
So he actually stops. The person who's passing it, you guys stop
and exchange the
do
flame.
the whole thing, and then you start running.
They turn off their torch. My torch is completely lit. The guy who was running next to me says, "Okay, let's go." And he's like, he looked at my leg, and he's like, he goes, "Are we taking this an easy pace?" I'm like, "Oh yes." And I started hobbling off.
So you're following the car?
Following the car. Yep, the car's right in front of me.
So how heavy was the torch?
Not heavy at all.
It's not?
No.
It looks heavy.
No, it's good weight. I mean, it does have some weight to it, but your adrenaline, I could have lifted that thing full extension over my head and ran that half mile without a problem. I had so much adrenaline and so much I don't know, pride. I don't know, but I was completely into it. And when I got to the end, my two people were gone because they didn't run with me. The other two people come up when I come to the end. They're like, "Okay, this is what you do." And then those two people stayed with me and helped me turn off my torch and all this stuff. And
then you get to keep it right then and there.
Yeah. I walked away with the torch.
Wow.
Yep. So it was weird because my two people ended up staying with the person who gave me the flame. The person I gave the flame to, their two volunteers or security or whatever, stayed with me, until we were all wrapped up. And then they made sure that, we got back to either our vehicle or there was a station there where we all met. We could go back there and hang out. But we were so far away that we were like, "Hey, let's go back to our cars," which are there. We didn't end up going back inside, and we just grabbed our stuff and left.
And you had to get nominated for that.
That was my understanding. I think I was, because it said you have been nominated to run the, Olympic torch. And I was like, what is this?
And probably sponsorship, because I know.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we had to get sponsorship for the torch and everything. I mean, I think it covers, the torch itself. And I mean, I got a boatload of stuff, that, and there was a lot of people involved in this that, a lot of them were volunteers, but, there was a lot that went into just me running 0.6 of a mile, or, I don't know how long a kilometer is, but, there was a lot.
Interesting. The things we don't know. That's why it's interesting to discuss different topics, because I have so many questions I want to ask you right now about this.
Yeah, no, go. I mean, but that is from 1984. And I think I had a bit of nostalgia when these Olympics came in, because they're exactly 40 years later. I was literally 17 years old when I ran the Olympic torch. I was just a baby.
Yeah.
I was just a baby. But, I'm 57 now and I'm watching the Olympics. I enjoy it. It is one of my favorite sporting events. I really do enjoy the Olympics. I've always been fascinated because I was part of one, in some way, shape, or form. And it is kind of a bucket list item of mine to do that. And so what other questions you got about the torch?
I don't know at the moment. Well, I wanted to know where the flame is on the car.
On the trunk. So it's almost like there is in the trunk. I didn't see this, but I imagined that in the trunk, there's probably a big kerosene, butane, something that is keeping this flame going. And then
there's a hole.
And then there's a hole in the trunk. And then
is this safe?
Yeah. Then there's a hole in the trunk. And then there's a glass casing with like a little bit of, you could see like little air vents, because you
gotta have needs oxygen,
right? So you could see because I was kind of looking at it while I was running. I was like, oh, that's kind of neat, and but it was kind of covered, so the wind wouldn't blow it out. But it was a constant flame, and you could see it right there on the back of the car. Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, and I mean that was the flame. If anything happened to the flame, and I do remember, and I don't even know if they would still have it. I do remember some people trying to put out the flame during some portion of the Olympic torch run. you know, that people, you know, protested it, and, you know, I don't know, some oppression thing. I don't know what was going on, you know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So let's ask our viewers if you have a personal connection to the Olympics. Maybe you know somebody who's represented the country or ran a leg of the torch or anything like that. So let us know in the comments. That would be interesting.
Yep.
What's your favorite event to watch?
Yeah. What's your favorite event? Yep. And I also remember when they ran the torch through when the Atlanta games were here. I can't remember exactly what year, when Muhammad Ali lit the torch. Was the last one. I remember the local radio station getting in touch with me and asking me to share my experience of the Olympic torch run. And, you know, so yeah, I think it's, you know, something that I'll always have a connection to. And I was lucky at 17 years of age to be nominated and been able to do it. And
it's a special thing.
I think the greatest thing about it was I was the only person from this area to do it. So I think I was kind of representing our county, which is the largest county in Ohio, but not the largest in population, largest in square footage, you know.
Yeah, got a lot of land.
Yeah, but I was very proud to represent this county as the only torchbearer.
Yep, awesome.
Yep.
I think we're going to save the Chicago trip stuff for our special series, Typically Unique Travels.
Cool.
We'll just make that a video probably.
We could have a special guest on for that too, you know.
Have those. We might do that.
We should do that.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm going to do that. We'll make a separate video for Chicago. And if you're a Big Brother fan, let us know your thoughts about this season in the comments, and we'll be back. Oh my goodness, I don't even know when we're gonna, because our special guest is coming Sunday. So I will, we might not record until Tuesday. So look for our next video on Tuesday for that.
All right.
There might be another one in the meantime, though.
All right.
We might be going live with a special guest on Monday.
Fabulous.
But we'll see everybody back here next week.
All right.
All right. Bye.
Bye.